This is episode 328 of Mito Life Radio. I am Matt Blackburn. Today I'm interviewing Gwenyth Burmingham. Gwenneth healed herself from endometriosis, hypothyroidism, leaky gut, anxiety, using the principles that she's going to share in this show. She talks about how she came across Ray Peat in naturopathic medical school and how it changed her life, healing from the conditions that I mentioned earlier, but also heavy periods, severe allergies, anxiety. I ask her thoughts on the high protein diet, and she talks about how it's overdone and why collagen and gelatin supplementation is so important. And then she describes the sugar diet, how she does it, the different foods and beverages that she consumes, and why she views it as a short-term strategy. She talks about why she believes most people have a degree of estrogen dominance, why she loves topical progesterone, how she uses thyroid supplementation, polyunsaturated fats, and seed oils and how to mitigate them, why she likes liver flushing, how she uses ice cream, her thoughts on functional medicine tests, CO2 therapy, fiber, why she loves Zeolite, how to prepare for having a baby, and so much more. So enjoy the show. Here is Gwenyth Burmingham. Okay, Gwenyth Burmingham, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation. I don't know how long we've been following each other on social media. I think it's been several years, and
I've been following you for a long time. You were definitely one of the first names that I was getting into in my health journey. I've been in here for a long time, messing around with different stuff, but you were always having good guests on your show. So I'm super excited to be here and contribute to that with the information that I have now. So
absolutely. Yeah. I'd like to talk about how you got into this. And a lot of people had a health condition, and that's why they started researching. That was my situation besides the skin stuff, acne and eczema. But I'm curious, what got you interested in this specific path?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different things here, but growing up, I was always pretty much super healthy. The only thing I really had was allergies, pretty severe, like hay fever. So histamine's been something that's followed me for a very long time. But when I started to get older, when I got my period was definitely rough from the start. Super heavy bleeding, lots of clotting, cramping, just totally feeling out of it. I developed some pretty bad anxiety at that point as well. And then, into college, I'm not sure if it was, just moving out of the house, the different routines, the freedom to eat whatever I wanted, those types of things. My hormones just absolutely crashed. I just rapidly started gaining weight, and there was really nothing that I felt like I could do about it. I was completely resistant to exercise. I would faint if I tried to just even go on the treadmill. And so lots of, indications there of what was to come. So I was always wanting to be in the medical field. I thought I was going to go to typical medical school, but after, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but after a family member was vaccine injured, I decided to go to naturopathic medical school. So I ended up going to SCNM in Arizona. And, that was a really interesting thing because everyone there was plant-based. Everybody there was pushing herbs and all these crazy things. And so I dove really deep into that. And that's where I actually met my first Peter, per se, pro-metabolic person. And it took a long time for me to warm up to what he was saying. But, over a few years, he planted the seeds there. And so started diving into that. And, during all that time, I was fighting tooth and nail to get healthy, just doing everything I possibly felt like I could, exercising all the time. I was an athlete growing up. I did competitive dance. I did soccer, basketball, all these things, figure skating. So I was always very, very fit. And for some reason, everything just fell off the bandwagon. I couldn't really figure it out. And so I was throwing everything I could at it, and I just could not get better. And so that's kind of how I got into the pro-metabolic world. I ended up leaving naturopathic medical school and just starting my own kind of path here. So that's how we ended up here.
Cool. Yeah, I tried the conventional college route. I got my bachelor's degree Spent
Hmm.
7 years like switching between these psychology, philosophy, nutrition classes. It's amazing what we can learn online. I think the tricky part is I kind of made it funny, like cookware social media story today, because we're in this place of like sensationalist reels and information. I think
Hmm.
Instagram's turned into kind of like a TikTok thing the last
Yeah.
3 years. Like people make it like very fear based to get more clicks, and that just confuse people. But I mean, my opinion is it kind of makes people focus on the wrong things.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Yeah, I definitely seen that, and I'm a Christian, so I don't like to do that. I'm not gonna, like, sit here and just instill fear into people and, go based off of this, like, fear, confusion, and let me take your money kinda thing. I just wanna help people. That's really why I'm here. When I was going through all this, I didn't have much help. Like I said, I was listening to podcasts, and that was, like, my doctor. And so the voice that I can be for the person that was in the position that I was, that's exactly what I wanna do. Not, be fearful and, you know, post all the trends and all those things.
with endometriosis, or you discovered that. Is that right? Or
Yeah, so to be completely clear, I was never diagnosed. I never went to a doctor for these things. I did go to a naturopathic doctor when I was in school for it. Never was, like, diagnosed, but my labs were super bad, and they put me on a ton of supplements, including, like, flaxseed. I was taking, like, several tablespoons of flaxseed per day because my estrogen was so high, which is crazy because on blood work, it's typically not, that high showing up because it's typically stored in tissue, and mine was crazy. They thought I was lying about where I was in my cycle. So, yeah.
interesting. So that was their prescription, was like megadose flaxseed oil.
Yeah, it was just pure flaxseed. Like, she had me grinding it up fresh and then, just a bunch of herbs there too. But yeah, so I was never really diagnosed, but definitely had super bad estrogen issues, like off the charts, puffiness, just crazy periods, everything of that sort, which I know now is a result of obviously toxins and just low thyroid function too. There's always going to be a deeper root cause behind all of these things. But yeah, never was diagnosed, but definitely intuitively knew that that was what's going on.
Mhm. So what year was it when you, like you said, you met your first heater person?
So I was at SCNM. I think I started in fall of 2020. And so right off the bat, we were like having some like extracurricular hangouts with people, big groups of people just getting to know each other. And it was always funny, like he'd come in with like the totally opposite opinion of everybody else and kind of stir the pot. And it was always funny because he'd be like, why do you think milk's bad for you? Why do you think sugar's bad for you? And we'd all be like, oh, it's estrogenic. It's going to cause mucus in your body. Like, you need to fast, bro. And he just like planted the seeds over the course of many years. And I'm really thankful for that because he was never super like domineering about it, but he was always there with resources when you needed help.
Yeah. Yeah, that must be right after I found him, because I found him, might have been the beginning, the middle, I think the beginning of 2019, something like that, when I
Hmm.
looked up for Ray Peat and his website and his articles, which
Yeah.
just like a totally different framework than what's talked about in the health community, especially like the mainstream podcasts. All, fish oil is top 5 supplement, Rock Patrick says.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the opposite of a lot of what's pushed. And I've tried keto so many
Hmm.
times. And I think, I mean, that was originally developed for epilepsy patients, right? Which I have that in my family. So that's like a, topic I'm very well versed on different types of seizures and different remedies for staving that off. But it's a therapy. It's not meant to be like a long-term thing. Right?
Hmm. Yeah, I never did keto as to what I know it to be now. When I was doing it, I thought I was doing keto. It was really just low carb, high protein. But yeah, now that I know what keto is, I don't think it's so bad. It's definitely not as bad as just like a super high protein diet, in my opinion, because you're at least getting the fuel there from the fat. And I do think that there's really strategic ways that you could use it. I think there's probably other things that you could do in that case of like epilepsy or, some brain issues. I think progesterone could be really therapeutic there. So,
Yeah, I've enjoyed some of your posts on like countering the high protein thing. That's been
yeah.
at least the last maybe 3, maybe 4 years, like a lot of push for, getting like hitting a certain number of grams a day, regardless of your body. I guess sometimes they throw out the body weight metrics where it's like what 1 gram per pound.
Yeah, well, that's the funniest thing of it all is it always used to be zero point 0.8 grams per kilogram. And now it suddenly turned into like 1.5 grams per pound, which is like exponentially higher. I don't know if that's like genuinely was somebody's error. And you know how social media works, people just copy what other people say and it just kind of trickled like that. I really don't know where that high of a protein recommendation came from. It's absolutely unnecessary in my opinion. I think when you're growing your body, like growing up, obviously protein's going to be a little bit more important. But, you know, once you're at that point where your body's fully developed, I just don't really see like a huge need for it. Obviously, there's like a threshold. You need a certain amount to have good liver function, to have good thyroid function, to keep your muscles where they are. I know carbs are super protein and muscle sparing, but you still need the carbohydrates and amino acids there. I think it's not really an argument whether, you know, some of these amino acids are inflammatory and whether restricting them is going to extend lifespan. And so it is interesting to get into these tips with people who are so, you know, addicted to protein because it's like, you know, I mean, the research is there and then they'll go, you know, what if I balance it out with some gelatin? And it's like, yeah, you could do that, but you still want the benefits of the glycine there. You don't just want it to all be counteracting the other inflammation within the body. And so I think that there's obviously a certain amount that you need to get. I always at least get like 60 grams per day, but I'm not getting like 200 grams per day and just eating meat all day. Like, I don't know how these people are not having like hypoglycemia from that, to be honest, and just like horrible digestion.
Yeah. I tried to actually interviewed Sean Baker years ago. It's kind of a boring interview. I tried to eat a steak for breakfast once. Like, this just weird. Rather eat eggs, have sourdough, or milk.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, the protein obsession, you're right. I think you pointed out, like, people get very like emotional about it. I've been trying to see where that's coming from. Like, if it's like a body image thing, because
Mhm.
there's like this thing, like everybody, all the men should look like, you know, Michelangelo or like a sculpture.
Yeah. 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 It's really interesting. I think body comp has probably a lot to do with it. Just like the fitness sphere. I mean, you see people all the time. They have no regard for their health. They just want to have the body. And so it's just like just hit your calories, just hit your macros. It doesn't matter what it looks like. I mean, I think there could be something there intuitively in terms of like nutrient deficiencies. If someone's super, you know, malnourished, obviously they're craving a certain food for a certain reason. Specifically, one client comes to mind and she was in a very bad place and she craves protein a lot. And so that's where we're at right now. We're still pretty high protein with her, but she's also at 3,900 calories and eating a ton of carbohydrates as well. So it's not just like a ton of protein by itself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I definitely feel the difference supplementing. I think you promote lifeblood as well. Atoms,
Hmm.
taurine and glycine, and then my magnesium, which has taurine and glycine in it. That's the
Yeah.
majority. The capsule, a little bit of magnesium is bound to it. But those two amino acids, I have a realtor friend up here, and she always asks me about high cholesterol. You know, I have a friend with high cholesterol. What do you recommend? And that and high blood pressure seem to be two really common things.
Yeah.
For high cholesterol, like taurine and glycine supplementation could help a lot. It doesn't have to be like mega dose,
Hmm.
but just just daily for a while could help. Uh,
Yeah, I love Adam's products. I just loaded up on them right before the call. I took some L-theanine, I got the glycine, taurine, his Tyrofen product. I love all that. So I'm not an amino acid hater, I promise. I just
yeah. Are you still? I got lazy with the gummies. I think I saw some of your posts. Have you gotten into the homemade with like gelatin powder?
yeah, yeah, I love, you know, collagen and gelatin supplementation. I know for some people, like collagen can be a little bit stimulating in terms of like histamine and serotonin for some reason in the gut. You think it would do the exact opposite, but sometimes it does have that like hypoglycemic effect for some people, which you know causes kind of that stress response, and we'll get like a histamine kind of low, like low mood from the histamine. But yeah, I love to use them personally if you tolerate it well. You might just want to play around with different sources if you don't respond to it well, because I know that some can have I mean, depending on how much inflammation is going on in your body, you might just respond to it differently. If you have autoimmune issues, you know, the tissue in there might cause some issues. But yeah, I typically shoot for like 30 to 40 grams of either one per day or a combination. I do typically supplement with like 2 grams of glycine on its own as well as, you know, the other amino acids that I listed before.
And the reason, if listeners are new to this kind of information, like Ray Peat talked about the inflammatory amino acids,
predominantly found in muscle meat, I believe, like high cysteine,
Hmm.
and those, if not countered by the other parts of the animal, lice are cause like an inflammatory effect. Is that, did I describe that accurate?
Yeah, that's exactly why. I mean, that's not like the only reason why I'm like against the high protein thing, but yeah, methionine, cysteine, and tryptophan restriction have been, I never want to say proven with science because nothing's ever solid, but it's been shown with evidence, time and time again to be inflammatory in certain degrees. And when you restrict it, you see really beneficial effects in at least the rats and mice. So yeah, you want to at least counteract what you're because you do still want to eat meat. Meat's going to be very good for you, obviously. Liver, organs, muscle meat's still good for you. Gelatinous cuts of meat. I do still eat meat every single day. But yeah, just offsetting that a little bit with some of the glycine and those types of things that are going to mediate those inflammatory effects. But at the same time, you just do still want to have some of that glycine reserved for yourself as well. You don't want it all to be wasted doing that.
Generally eat meat. Like for me, it's always at dinner and sometimes lunch. Although
Mhm.
lately how busy I've been bad skipping lunch, but I at least like I'll consume some things, whether it's masa chips or something. I'll snack in the middle of the day.
Mhm.
Uh, but I'm just curious when you, because people have like, we'll get into maybe like the sugar diet, which is
Yeah.
like high carb throughout the day.
Mhm.
Like, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm running right now. I'm doing the sugar diet pretty much every day. I mean, I was away from my family. I lived in Arizona for 5 years. And so now that I'm back, like everyone wants to hang out. They want to go out to eat, want to go to do these things. And so a lot of times there's like 1 or 2 days a week that I have to kind of compromise on that. And that's great because it's flexible diet. But yeah, for the most part, morning to I would say like 5 p.m., I'm just crushing the carbohydrates, not starches. I'm pretty much sticking to like juice, fruit, honey, maple, and I'll, throw a couple Cokes in there. And then yeah, I hit my protein pretty much at dinner. I'll have like 40 grams, 45 there. And then with dessert, I have another 10 to 15. So I'm hitting like that 60 mark.
Yeah, I guess I've been doing that without even knowing it. Well, I have three eggs for breakfast.
Mm.
It doesn't count, but yeah, maple syrup is actually probably my primary source of carbs. And I have 25 fruit trees that I just planted this summer. It was kind of late, but I'm hoping in a perfect world, like next summer, I'm able to walk outside that local
Hmm.
or stone food's amazing. Peaches, the flowers.
Oh yeah, I'm loving the peaches recently. We also had local to us some figs. I don't know if they were grown local, but I've never seen them in the stores near us. We had some fresh figs, so I've been loving those recently too. But yeah, I mean, when I'm eating like a typical diet, obviously the sugar diet is like a short-term tool for fat loss. And we could get into like the why you would want to do that versus something else. But for me, like when I'm typically doing like just like a normal day, it would look like typically I'm leaning towards like a savory breakfast. I like the eggs and sourdough in a latte. But now the way that I feel on the sugar diet, I've been leaning towards at least doing like fruit till noon, even on those days where I'm not doing the sugar diet, just because it feels really good. You feel very grounded by the other foods like proteins and fats and starches, but there's something about the energy that carbohydrates alone give you that's just it's not comparable to, even eating just a pro-metabolic diet either ways. Otherwise, my husband specifically doesn't love to do the sugar diet. He likes to have salty foods and normal breakfast foods, his lattes especially. So he was like, "Can't we just do like 1 week of trying just like a regular calorie deficit?" And I was like, "Sure." And I was so low energy all week, and it's like I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to have to feel like that to lose weight. So here we are.
Yeah, because traditional, like what's been pushed for years and years, and Dave Asprey's books and Percola, Fat for Fuel, although I think he's come around to a Ray Peat perspective 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, I have seen some of his stuff pop up. Everyone in his comments hates him now. He's definitely a sugar shill.
Well, it seems like everyone, like, because back in like when we got into it, like 2019, 2020, and obviously there were people back in 2015, the Ancestral Health Symposium or whatever with starting so
Mhm.
I remember this as a guy. It's one of the OGs, but the traditional view is like weight loss is, an easy way to do it is like the bulletproof diet, right? Or like high carb, or sorry, high fat,
My fat, yeah.
right? but that has some drawbacks, right? Like slowing the metabolism, kind of causing this
Ye-
like boomerang effect.
Yeah, I think it's really like I said, I've never run a true keto diet myself, but what I've seen in people is it works once and then it kind of never works again. For a lot of people, it's just not sustainable in terms of like an actual keto diet. You're literally getting like 90+% of your calories from pure fat. I just don't know in a world where that's actually sustainable. And it's one of those things that it's not as flexible. You have to transition into it and transition out of it. You can't just tolerate carbohydrates off the bat coming off of a keto diet. So it's not flexible. At least to me, it's not sustainable. And there's, the drawbacks there with relying on stress systems, relying on those other things to get your carbohydrates. I mean, your cells, it's not an essential thing, but you do need glucose. And just because your body can create it doesn't mean that that's the optimal way to get it.
Yeah. I've said several times on my show, I did the almond raw protocol, which is the same protocol on the internet, which is
Mhm.
3 hours a day fasting with or restriction and a soy and bean diet. And herbs, teas, caffeine. And I did that for, I don't remember what it was. I think it was 6 months. And I was really strict and I broke it with a protein shake and I was super jacked. I was deadlifting today and exercising. I was so stressed and my nervous system just felt so unstable. And at
Mhm.
the point, yeah, when I started adding back in carbs, I had to do it slowly because I wasn't hungry for, so I had to
Yeah.
bring my metabolism back to normal. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, definitely not sustainable. I mean, that's an extreme example, but I think we could learn a lot in extremes. That's
Yeah, and a lot of people call the sugar diet extreme, and for some people it might be, but I think it's also extreme to have to, take 5 years to lose the weight. I think that's extreme. I don't want to wait 5 years to feel good. A lot of people in the pro-metabolic space right now are saying, you should just do it the right way. Just have the balanced meals, go in a deficit, then work up your maintenance. And I've done that. I got big into that like 2 years ago. I was like, okay, I'm going to work up my calories. I got up to 3,000 and I held that for a few months and then I did my deficit. Yeah, you lose like 10 pounds in like 2 months or something like that. That was my experience at least. But then you have to go through another like 6 to 8 month period of working back up your calories before it's safe to do a deficit again. And I just turned 26. Like, I mean, that's not old in the grand scheme of things, but I want to start a family. Like, I want to be healthy before I do that. I'm not going to be chasing around kids in a calorie deficit. I'll tell you that. So I want to get the weight off now. And it might seem extreme, but it's easy. To me, it's very easy. You feel really good and you get the fat off fast.
and you're also getting, because part of this like increasing your metabolic rate, which is opposite, especially from a longevity perspective. They say the way to do it is like the Brian Johnson way: lower your body temperature.
Yeah, to 95.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like the polar opposite. Uh, but you're also getting your vitamins and minerals, right? Because you need to if you're eating higher sugar.
Oh, absolutely. That was something that in the beginning I wasn't as strategic about. I mean, obviously this kind of came from at least the first person I heard talking about it was Anabology and then Veronica with the Fairy Princess diet. And I crashed and burned a little bit when I did that style because I wasn't supplementing anything. I mean, I was supplementing. I was doing my regular supplements though. Like I was taking fat soluble vitamins in the sugar phase, just like didn't really make sense what I was doing there, had no strategy. But then also, they don't really recommend, like, it's really just a protein dinner. And, that might work for some people, but for me, it gave me hypoglycemia. And so I need to have the starches or something with dinner at least, and then some sort of like fruit based dessert or milk there. So that's kind of where I started there. But then now I've been a lot more strategic about it. I definitely push the B vitamins and the minerals for sure in that phase. Like I'm definitely going high with especially B1. That's something that I use. I use 200 of HCl form and then an additional 200 of benphthiamine. And that's been, it's like exponentially different than not using it. And obviously magnesium in several forms and then calcium, potassium, and making sure salt's up there too. Cause you're just eating sugar all day. You kind of forget that salt, exists because you're just drinking juice. You have to remember to get your salt in.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, the B1 is. I interviewed Elliot Overton I think a couple of years ago. Yeah, he definitely blew up, especially on X. Like like great.
Is that objective nutrients?
Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
yep, yep. Yeah, great product. I never felt anything even megadosing it, but I think genetics play a part with especially B vitamins in our requirement.
Hmm.
I think I have a higher requirement from B3 when I looked at my SNPs and things. With some people it's biotin, some people it's B2, riboflavin, B5,
Hmm.
6. I even do well on large amounts of B6 as pulse B5 people, which
Yeah.
it's a toxin.
No, I love B6. I was gonna say, like, for B vitamins, like, if you're not able to get a complex for some reason, definitely focusing on 1, 2, 3, and 6 would be definitely my stack there. Those are the ones I think are most important, especially if you're running, like, a super high carbohydrate diet.
What's your opinion on sweating in a sauna for weight loss? I just moved back to my Oxford Lake House. I love my
Mhm.
sauna. I'd love to use it like 3 or 4 times a week, but realistically, still, I still feel amazing. And even though I don't have like a low body fat naturally, I feel like if I'm consistent with it, that my skin feels like thinner. Like I'm like purging things out, and I just look like more shrink wrapped or something. Uh,
Yeah.
Curious your thoughts with, because I know it's talked about being like stressor.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's contextual based on the person. I think it's gonna be similar to any other sort of, stress that you're putting on the body for like an intended good effect. I love using the sauna. I have the Relax sauna. It's a far infrared one. I met them at a conference a really long time ago and got swooned into getting that one. And I love it. Like I absolutely love it. At first, I definitely was still in that period of like the exercise resistance. Like anytime I would put my body under stress, and that's when I was doing low carb. I just didn't have the resources. My body just like anytime I say stress, it's not necessarily like you have this huge thing going on in your life that you're stressed about. It's just a demand on your system that maybe you're just not able to take care of. And so when I first started doing sauna therapy, it would knock me out. Like I would just be out for the rest of the day with like a crushing headache, and that could be detox symptoms too, but I think just overall, like the huge stress on the system there. I was already dealing with estrogen. My liver was already so taxed. Adding to that with detox, and then also adding to that with just the stress of like the heat shock. You just want to be careful with that. But yeah, now I love it and I can sit in there for a much longer time. I love to sweat. I love my sauna for sure. I think it's definitely a very useful therapeutic for detox and a lot of things for fat loss too. I think just warming up the body is huge.
Yeah. And it feels really nice if you live in a cold climate. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I'm in central New York. So when I was in Arizona, there was a little bit more resistance to using it. But here, I'm like, I love that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. When the snow's out, that's the best time. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize too, like I've done so many shows on iron, both excess and then
Hmm.
recently. And people don't realize you sweat out iron, as
Hmm.
well as copper, sweat out zinc. I've looked at the studies. We
Yeah.
lose, we lose pretty much everything, but it's like if you're already deficient, in some of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's an intelligent reason for why we lose those things because maybe there's toxins that are bound to that, or there's a reason why that's moving through the system, whether your body's just using it up to detox those things or what. But yeah, definitely making sure you're supported. That was something I learned very quickly was I needed, orange juice with salt, maybe a little potassium. Sometimes I'll throw like a glass of milk in there before as well, just making sure I'm super set with like electrolytes.
Yeah. And you use the Vera salt, is that right?
I do. I love Vera salt. It's super good. I have used a lot of different salts in my day, but this one Vera salt tastes very good. This isn't a sales pitch, but it's awesome. Yeah.
I'll have to try it. Yeah, I've never tried it. I've heard some people say they just cycle the salts. They always do different ones. So that's
Mm,
kind of an interesting to get like different mineral profiles.
yeah. That's interesting. Not something I've really thought about. Yeah, Vera salt just tastes good. Honestly, it just tastes a lot better. So,
Definitely try it. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a good point about stress being a demand on the system because people think of it as like an event, like a car
mhm.
accident or something.
Yeah.
Glad that you mentioned that because that's kind of getting it. I mean, that's a good starting point to realize what is stress and the solution. Because going back to my 23 hours fasting, like I could not handle stress at all. And then once I added back in, well, let alone animal protein, but also just carbohydrates and calories, those
Mhm.
that felt like superhuman. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's amazing because people tend to go to like supplements first, and those can help, but you definitely have to have the backing of sufficient calories.
Yeah. I'm not against supplements at all. I love supplementation. I know that there's a huge wave of people that are against supplementation. I love supplements. I have a good foundational stack that I'm always working with and adding to. But yeah, the stress to me is, like I said, it's any demand on the system where you're not able to. I mean, and it can be just a demand that you are able to deal with, but then it drains your resources or it depletes them totally, and you have, the residual effects of that. But basically, I mean, you can go into stress without even feeling stress, and that's just from eating not enough foods or not having enough micronutrients. Because basically, anytime that any cell in your body is feeling pressure to perform some sort of duty, whatever it has to do, without having the resources there, it's going to go into a stress reaction. It's going to reduce, or it's going to release estrogen, serotonin, nitric oxide, lactic acid, all of those things. And that's how we can get into this state. A lot of people, they're like, oh, I've never taken birth control. I've never taken any of these things. I don't drink out of plastic water bottles. How could I possibly be estrogen dominant? And it's just like every cell in your body is under stress constantly and releasing estrogen because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great thing. And I know there's different forms of estrogen. I've seen some people debate like the demonization of estrogen. And
Yeah.
so if it's like an iron thing, like everyone's overloaded or everyone's deficient, but it's
hmm
probably somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the more we get, you know, further along in time, the more we're exposed to things that are just generally estrogenic. It doesn't have to be that the chemical or whatever we're exposed to is inherently like phytoestrogenic, but they mimic estrogen in the way that they're just presenting in our body and the way that our body responds to them. So I do think that most people do have a certain degree of estrogen dominance, especially because you don't have to necessarily have a lot of estrogen. It's just the fact that you have low thyroid and low progesterone that kind of gets out of balance there where you get the estrogen dominance. I will say, like, I do have a couple clients who are older that take like some sort of estrogen, and my hope is that they would at least cycle it. I think, if it's helping you to feel better, maybe there is a place for it, but I think we should exhaust all other options first, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I've experimented, obviously as a man with topical progesterone,
Mm.
and I didn't feel anything positive or negative because I hear
Mhm.
some of the cortisol. One guy, pro-metabolic guy that's now constant says that. Um, right. But I don't know. I think for women, I've seen a lot of beneficial effects, even in person, like giving them a bottle of my extra progesterone. Saying, here, try
Mhm.
this locally here, and they had found results. So it's one of those pretty safe supplements, right? So people freak out. There.
Yeah, it's super funny. Like, this was one of the first things that my friend in school had got me to try was progesterone. I came to him once and I was like, you know what? I'm sick of being like fat. I'm sick of not feeling good. My periods suck. Like, I'm gonna do the typical like no gluten, no dairy, no sugar. And I'm just gonna like push it super hard. And he's like, what if you just tried progesterone? And I remember being like, how could you ever like recommend exogenous hormones? Like, that's just crazy. But now I'm slamming it every single month in my luteal phase. It's funny. But yeah, there's so many uses for progesterone. I think it's one of those things that just restores the metabolism in the cell. And so there's definitely a ton of uses for it. Obviously, using it cyclically for your period is going to help with reducing estrogen, helping with, egg quality, those types of things. But beyond that, I've seen it used many different ways in my clients. One specific comes to mind. He had like an injured rotator cuff, and he was just in so much pain, couldn't even sleep. And his doctor told him he needed to get surgery. And the first time I saw him, I'm like, what if we just I didn't tell him what it was. And he was like a family friend, so it's okay. But I was like, what if we just put this on it? And it was Progest E. And we mixed it with oil. And I probably used like maybe a fourth of the bottle or more, like a lot of progesterone we put on it. And then we did some red light for like 10 minutes. And he woke up the next morning and was like, I don't feel any pain, like at all. And I slept through the night. And so anytime you have pain or like injury, again, that's stress on the system and that's an estrogen, mediated process there. And so any nerve pain is going to have estrogen water retention and progesterone's going to get in there and fix that.
Have you seen it help women if they're just like like angry a lot or have like a bad irritable, bad mood?
Yeah. So there's always going to be kind of like a period where you do have to like detox the estrogen, to be honest. And that's why I obviously like to get foundations in place while at least using progesterone or something like thyroid, because thyroid's going to be important for making sure no more estrogen is produced. But yeah, used together, I think in Brona Barnes, he had an example of a lady who was just absolutely crazy and fought with her husband all the time and got her on a good thyroid dose and got her feeling a little bit better. And she was just totally normal.
When you say thyroid supplementation, are you referring to TT?
So with my degree and my certifications, I'm not allowed to give medication, obviously. So with most clients, I'm using NDT. Myself, I do use pure T3 and T4, and that's what I kind of tell my family about. And some of my clients do use it just based off their own deep diving into the Ray Peat sphere. But I think T4 is very important too. That's something that a lot of people don't talk about. I definitely like the full spectrum there, not just T3.
Yeah, I experimented with it. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, just Cynomel. I didn't feel anything positive or negative. I don't know if I just wasn't doing it right or something, or wasn't taking it long enough. So I've heard it takes like several weeks to kind of kick in, right? 2 to 3.
Yeah, I mean, some people will notice like a stress reaction right away if they're just super depleted, but typically, yeah, you would start out with a dose and kind of wait like 2 weeks and just see how your temperatures respond to that and how you just feel overall, your appetite, those things, and then kind of increase from there. But I started out with desiccated and I really liked it. But then when I used T3 and T4, I really liked it. And yeah, from there I could never go back. I know that they're cutting down on the import of that from Mexico. So I might have to transition back, but both are great. And I do recommend both of them.
And the biggest danger is if you took it and you're like calorie restricting or not eating enough food. Is that right?
Yeah, because again, it's going to be like, even though thyroid hormone is a great thing, it's still producing stress on the system if you're not having the resources alongside of it, vitamin A, magnesium, all these different things. And obviously, carbohydrates, fuel, protein and fat are important there too, not just carbohydrates. So yeah, it's going to push forward your metabolism. And so, if you don't have the resources there, it's gonna feel very depleting, very stressful, even though it's like an anti-stress hormone.
What are your thoughts like the whole TRT craze? It seems like that's really trended now. Testosterone replacement therapy, even just microdosing it, which I'm
Yeah.
resisted personally as long as I can. Even like Shulti, book velvet, the foundation stuff we talked about,
hmm
good. And I hope I never really get on it ever.
Yeah. Honestly, it's not one that I'm super like. I usually work with women, so I'm not super well versed in like exogenous testosterone. What I would say is I have worked with, some men, and it's very reasonable to get testosterone up just with eating enough food and taking thyroid hormone. A lot of what's happening there for a lot of men is the testosterone's aromatizing into estrogen. It's kind of being wasted there, or they just don't have enough resources to create it in the first place. Obviously, these days, it's like you can't eat anything with cholesterol in it. You can't eat anything with salt in it. Don't eat that. Don't eat that. And so then you have these people that just don't eat anything. They're kind of just scared of everything. And then either they go in the direction of just like a super orthorexic diet, like a vegan diet where they're hardly eating anything, or they just kind of just crash and burn and exit and just eat the worst food they possibly could. And they just decide that health doesn't matter. But yeah, you can get testosterone levels up very reliably with good foundations. So I wouldn't really see a need for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you saw that clip I posted. I think it was like the alt right sphere or something. Like the guy was like, "Yeah, I still want to eat Popeyes, and so that's why I took PRT." He also took seed oils and all this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, at that point, it's kind of just silly. I would never think that testosterone would be my protective measure against seed oils. I mean, that's probably the last thing I would think about. I mean, I definitely go out to eat. Like, it's not something that's I'm against. I'm not orthorexic, and I think my body's resilient to that. And I don't take testosterone, so I think I'm okay.
Do you think vitamin E is is that your strategy if you go out to eat? You're not sure what weeks club.
Yeah, I love vitamin E. I'll definitely take, 3 or 4 of those on a day that I know that I'm getting exposed to seed oils or, just eating unfavorable foods. I think aspirin's a really good tool there as well to prevent just like the free fatty acids and that absorption into the tissue. There was an interesting study also. I don't even know where it came from, but it was floating around, and I love the concept behind it. But they were like, someone ate an entire meal of McDonald's and had a glass of orange juice alongside of it, and it completely protected the body from the negative effects. And that just goes to show like liver function, metabolism, getting these foods processed and out of your body's going to be intelligent to take what it needs and hopefully leave the rest. And so I think creating that state of resilience in your body is important. But yeah, having, coconut oil, vitamin E, aspirin on hand for those situations is really important.
Yeah, it's funny. Every once in a while on social media, I'll see someone say that phrase, "You can't out supplement the bad diet," and
Yeah.
it's never like highlight that that's okay to do. I think that's just inherently false. I mean, if someone were theoretically taking like a lot of supplements, they're taking fat, they're taking progesterone, they have a big McDonald's bill, it would probably mitigate quite a bit of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think don't make it an everyday thing, because I think you can get into a position where you're just not getting the valuable, carbohydrates you need, because almost everything that you could get for takeouts can be super, dense in fat. I mean, there is carbohydrates there, but so much fat that it's just going to create a competitive state within your body. And I think that probably leans towards a lot of gut issues as well, and inflammation there that that starts to pedal backwards and get you in a place of trouble. So I definitely go out to eat. I'm not against that, but definitely don't make it an everyday thing, I think.
Yeah. Did you ever have in your journey gut issues, or did you ever go on like a gut protocol, whether it's probiotics? Full.
Yeah, I never really had too bad of gut issues. If anything, I lean towards like slow digestion, and that's pretty much been resolved just by eating a high carbohydrate diet and thyroid. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that are kind of moving there, and I've gotten into the liver flushing thing, and that honestly has been a big mover for me as well. Just making sure that bile is flowing really well, that's been a critical piece, and just making sure my digestion is regulated. But I absolutely 100% notice, like, if I eat a higher fat meal, my digestion slows down, like, right off the bat. And so getting into the high carbohydrate, running the sugar diet, my digestion's super fast. It's great.
Wow. So what are your thoughts on ice cream then? Like I buy a really good one up here that's Double Rainbow brand. I don't know if they sell it anywhere else, but it's
Mhm.
actual egg yolks. It's just like super clean. I think it's like 8 ingredients. There's a few gums, but like clean
Mhm.
Haagen-Dazs. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there is the good Haagen-Dazs, and then there's another one, I think it's called, like, Ice Cream for Bears. Have you seen that one? That one I really enjoy. Yeah, so I'm not against fat. I think context right now, I'm trying to lose weight, so I am restricting fat and just trying to really push that carbohydrate metabolism. I'm still healing. I mean, I came from a position of such bad thyroid function that I'm still, pushing forward. I'm still trying to lose the weight. But if someone's, just at maintenance, or even if they just want to have a treat, ice cream's definitely, it's going to have the calcium there, the good fats. It's going to be, a great source of fats. It's not going to be polyunsaturated fats as long as you're being careful about it. What I typically do recommend though is structuring your day where you keep some of the fat mostly for like dinner and dessert, just because you're going to be able to digest that, take a little bit longer to digest that overnight, and it's going to help to reserve your glycogen stores. And so I if I'm recommending like a dessert to people, it's typically a little bit higher in fat and carbohydrate.
That's my style. Yeah. I'll wait after dinner. I don't know, 1 to 2 hours,
Hmm.
2 hours to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm seeing too that you're into Methylene Blue. That recently saved me my birthday trip because there's something going around. I don't know, bioweapon or something.
Hmm.
My parents were like, be careful. Everyone has a sore throat. And I'm like, okay. So I start slamming and I did the transcription squares. They're easy to take. But I think every day I was averaging like 50 milligrams. And
Hmm.
I, even though I felt like something trying to get in, you guys know that feeling I'm talking about, like something's trying to
Hmm.
get forward, it couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Methylene blue's cool. I know that, there's obviously kind of, at least when I'm thinking about it, two ways that it could be used. One is like an antimicrobial, and in that way. And then one as sort of like a metabolic pusher, I guess, like electron donor. And so I guess like it depends on the context that you're using it. For me, it's not something that I typically recommend to people. It's not something I use frequently at all. I have used it before, just like in terms of energy, when I was in a point where I was feeling so low energy. it's going to fill in the gaps there. It's a very, it doesn't have a brain, but it is a very wise molecule and it's going to get in there and fill in the gaps, I guess. And so it can be used. It's not going to, do anything for the root cause of your metabolism issues there. But in terms of like antimicrobial, I have used it for like candida, taking that really high dose with like really high dose B3 as well. That's been a really cool strategy that I've seen work really successfully for candida. So,
Yeah, it's a fun diagnostic because it turns your urine blue at a high dose, but on
mhm.
a trip, even 50 milligrams, my urine didn't have any hint of blue at all. It wasn't even
Oh, wow.
so that was blue, and that was like a high UMF environment. I
Yeah.
was like, well, my body's using all of this. Wow.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love anecdotes like that. I mean, because that definitely tells you whether your body is using it up right. Because it goes through that reaction where if it's used up, it kind of turns back. And some people, if they have like porcelain teeth or something, they recommend to mix it with vitamin C before you drink it so that it doesn't stain your teeth. Yeah, I've taking the higher doses, I noticed the color, but even at like a lower dose, like 2 milligrams, I noticed the color. So I guess I don't really need it that much.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to see what other you use. Looks like you're into functional medicine labs. Do you usually run different lab tests with clients to work with? Or
Not very often, to be honest. I love having them there as a resource for people that are looking for that data. I think the health space is so overwhelming. And for a lot of people, they just have no idea what's going on. And so they really appreciate that data. For the most part, if I just don't require them. I mean, you could tell so much based off of symptoms. I think if you ever run into a point where you're having a lot of digestive issues that we can't really seem to figure out, you can hypothesize based off a lot of your symptoms, but sometimes people want to know like what exactly is going on in your gut. And I would say the gut stool test is probably the one that I'm using the most for those sorts of issues, just because depending on what you have going on in there, it could be a completely different protocol that you're using. And so you kind of want the data there if someone has like really severe gut stuff going on. But other than that, I typically am not using lab tests that often. I think it's been pretty reliable to get people on track just doing the foundations.
yeah, definitely. And it's not fun to get blood work, too. Like I've tried to get
Yeah.
all the biohackers really focus on that getting. But I'm like, the question is, are they even looking in the right spot? Like to me, like vitamin D is accurate, serum ferritin's accurate, especially in the absence of inflammation. Pull that out.
hmm
But so many other things, like how do you tell your vitamin D status? Test what? Yeah,
Yeah.
two status. Your vitamin D.
Yeah. My clients are always sending me their blood work, and I do love to look at a couple things there. Obviously, I like to see how your insulin and glucose are doing. I think CO2 is a really cool one too. I know that you have had Scott on. I love the carbogenetics machine. He sent me one of those and I love that. I have a client who had very low CO2 and we used that, and she gets blood work very often. She was a very ill person before she came to me, so she gets testing quite often. And we saw her CO2 climb, and it was really cool to see that. So I think that's a good one that you can see off of blood work. Obviously, like you said, vitamin D, you can get a somewhat good idea of thyroid function if you get the right, you know, lab values tested. But overall, it's not the end all be all because your body, it's just a snapshot in time, really. It's not contextual to what's going on all the time because most people are going into the doctor stressed anyways.
Yeah, yeah, that affects hormones.
Mhm.
Yeah, the CO2 one's interesting because consuming carbs, you produce physical to the body, which is not a waste product. Keep listeners first on this. It's useful for a lot of different stuff, right? It's anti-stress. Does not work with oxygen. Uh, so many things.
Yeah, CO2 is super cool. Obviously, it's going to feed forward the oxygenation of your tissue. It's going to be, I mean, that's one of the main benefits. I think that's something people don't talk about quite often is why do we want oxidative phosphorylation? Like, why do we want, the cell to use glucose for energy? I think CO2 is one of the main reasons that we want that because that's going to push forward the oxygenation of our tissue, the acid base balance between the cell and the blood. There's a lot of things going on there that CO2 is extremely important. It buffers stress hormones. It does a lot of stuff. It's a buffer for your body. It regulates a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Carbonic acid, I know it's going to be reversibly converted to bicarbonate, which is one of the main like buffering systems in the body for acids.
Hmm.
That's not taking alkaline water acids, but like just like overall, like if we do have excess acidity, our body has the capability to counter.
Hmm.
A huge part of that. Um,
Yeah, I think baking soda is a really good tool there as well as like breathing techniques too. I like the Buteyko breathing; it's really good, effective.
yeah, sure. Yeah, I gave the carbogenetics CO2 bodysuit my friend Beverly up here that's dealing with like stress induced like rashes, skin stuff,
Mm,
and like itchiness even. She said just instantly it's like a living peak suit.
yeah, yeah. I have the inhaler, so it's definitely more of like an internal effect that I've noticed. I do have a couple clients that have gotten the body stream, and they've noticed really cool things with it as well. Just like the feeling that you get when you're in it, like your body warms up, you just feel good, you're calmed down. It sets you up for a good day. I know a lot of people like the cold plunging, but I'm like, why not just like plunge in some CO2? Maybe that's a better option.
Yeah, the one recommendation I have though, it does turn into a complete sauna. So it,
Yeah.
like you'll be drenched in sweat. So my strategy, I found the cryo helmet
Okay.
packs on like a neoprene helmet. They can keep in the freezer, and that
Hmm.
gave the body's it's so much more comfortable. Ice the pad.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that would be beneficial. I like the feeling of being like in my sauna, the getting hot, but at a certain point you definitely start to notice that flip to like the stressful part of it. And that's when you hop out. But like with the CO2, I know it's not super expensive, but for people who are on a budget, running through that much CO2 to fill the suit up, you definitely want to sit in there and enjoy that CO2. So if they're going to be in there for a while, they definitely want some sort of thing to help cool them down or keep them at least calm through it. So I mean, again, preparing your body with minerals and carbohydrates is probably important there too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Scott recommended like minimum 45 minutes. They asked, what's the minimum 15 minutes enough? He's like, definitely not.
Hmm.
But yeah, supposedly it helps for fat loss too, which
Yeah.
hydrated states.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at all these things in like the broader context of what's actually going on in the body, obviously CO2 is going to be something that propels your metabolism forward. And so any effect that's having to do with your metabolism, it's going to have a beneficial effect there.
Are you eating any vegetables, or if you do?
Yeah, I do. I like vegetables for taste, honestly. I used to not really enjoy them, but I do. Yeah, when I first started doing the sugar diet, I was typically doing like I started in the winter, and that was pretty rough, to be honest. I started just pounding a bunch of fruit and stuff in the winter, and I didn't love that just because it's so cold here. And so I started doing some warmed up vegetables with a bunch of salt. That was another way for me to get my salt in during that period as well. So yeah, I think as long as they're prepared well and your body's able to tolerate them, there's different kinds of fibers that are going to do different things. Obviously, something Ray talked about is the raw carrot salad or the cooked white button mushroom. Those are going to be very good for detoxing estrogen and helping with liver function, just binding toxins. I think binders are very useful. But at a certain point, vegetables can also be, inflammatory to the gut and they can cause a lot of irritation. So I think it just depends on the context there. If you're cooking them well, what you have going on in the gut, if you have a ton of fermentation issues and you're just not digesting your food, you're constipated, probably not.
Yeah, the fiber. I interviewed Karen Hurd on my show, which is hilarious. I had so many people pissed off because she promotes canola oil, or she doesn't.
Yeah.
She's like super anti sugar, even anti. She's like the anti Ray Peat, but like, he talks a lot about the benefits of beans and uh,
Okay.
obviously there's soluble fiber.
Hmm.
I've definitely noticed the anti-stress effects of fiber, especially if I go like I've gone extended periods without any fiber, and
Hmm.
it's with bowel movements like detoxification. I know some people are the opposite. It's fiber constipation. Uh,
Yeah.
it's not needed, but yeah, it's something you have to experiment with. And I interviewed the Z-Biotic guy a couple of times on the show,
Oh,
Zach,
yeah.
and as my coffee cools down, I put in the sugar to fiber stuff,
Hmm.
or bacteria that converts. It's basically get like 5 to 6 grams of extra fiber. This lemon soup raised in the gut and slow release. And so
Hmm.
I feel like even that tiny amount was like slowly improve my gut function, especially blooming for like the last I don't know, 9 months, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, fiber is such an individual one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people will jump on like an either or, and I don't think it has to be that at all, especially because, I mean, there is a lot of value to the foods, especially, some of those well cooked leafy greens are going to be very dense in, vitamin K and some minerals there. And I just enjoy well cooked vegetables, to be honest. I love that. Especially when I'm doing something like the sugar diet where I'm just like starving all the time. Not starving, I don't want to say that and scare people off, but you're pretty hungry. You have a roaring metabolism. And so it's good to get some bulk in there and kind of slow things down at the end of the day and kind of just like calm down the system. And that feels good. And it, lends me towards some good sleep and just calming down for the night. So I do really enjoy it. But yeah, for some people, it can be just adding fuel to the fire. So you definitely want to be very careful with fiber. It's not inherently good or bad, I think.
Yeah, yeah, finding which vegetables to feel good on. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
whole other animal, like growing them, and things, I think their own garden,
Hmm.
building the soil yourself, using, you know, good water. I think that has to be protected well. Pseudos,
Hmm.
I mean, what they're doing to the produce that we buy at the grocery store, at the organic health food store.
Yeah, yeah, your garden's pretty cool. Are you still using, like, analemma water to water the plants?
Uh, Not at this time. I need to get back to now. I'm just using like the raw. I'm very blessed to have like raw spring water, which I
Okay.
think is good enough, but it doesn't run through my system anymore. Um,
Mhm.
I have like a water softener. It's not good to use water softener up in raised beds. But yeah, I'll do some experiments. There's a cool company called Aquadia out of Germany, or
Okay.
Europe, and they sell basically vortex shower heads, garden things.
Mhm.
I got a crazy thing with the tuning fork that this it through like crystals, vortex, so putting that in there and playing around. But yeah, water. I mean, water is such a uh, you could spend your entire life just studying. Obviously,
Yeah.
politics or if that just the whole crazy world of structuring it.
Yeah, there's a lot there to water. Honestly, for a while, when I started peating, I wasn't peating, I'll say. I'm peat adjacent, I'll say. I wasn't drinking much water because I was drinking, tons of, like, fruit juice and milk and, the cane sugar soda here and there, some gelatin broths and things like that. And obviously those things are gonna be more well-rounded in terms of hydrating you, unless you're adding, like, minerals to the water, of course. So for a while, I wasn't drinking much water. I kinda got back onto that recently, especially, like, in the evening for some reason, just feeling a little bit like I need that hydration there, and I do have the analemma wand, and so I've been enjoying that. At a point in time, I wanted to get into all that, but I kinda just didn't. I think it's one of those, like, it's just not a foundational thing for me right now, and I'm really just focusing, helping people, and so it's not something I've dove into too much, but I think back to, like, the fruits and vegetable thing, that's gonna be structured water within those, so that's another benefit to it as well.
That,
That's why I asked if you were still gardening with it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely recommend people keep the search on YouTube like Gerald Pollack, Mitolite. That was fun.
Mhm.
And he's such a humble guy for how intelligent he is, which I always appreciate. And yeah, the water in our body structured, drink regular water. It's our body has to move energy basically. They convert it.
Mhm.
It's funny getting back to Southern California. Like I always notice how harsh, let alone airport water. I always go for the ice water. So
Yeah.
I, but just even any water down there, out valley, whatever. I'm like, this is so harsh compared to what I'm used to up north.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
must be spoiled. But yeah, I'm developing a water filter using type 1 shungite, and it's really cool. Not to turn this commercial for a second, but the shungite acts as demineralized. So
Mhm.
recent math, it's almost going to be like a Shilajit type of mineralizer, where
Okay.
all the water filters that demineralize, it's always either magnesium or calcium. So the Forcex, the calcite,
Mhm.
this is going to be a whole new remineralizer. So I'm super excited. And before it
Yeah.
goes into there, it's going to go for neodymium magnets, infrared light with the and through like 27 volts. So,
Oh, geez.
yeah,
That's exciting. I've had my eye on your water filter for a while. We're trying to buy a house right now, so we're kinda just pinching pennies, and I have, like, a tabletop. It's not the best. Honestly, I did notice it was starting to have some organic growth in there, which I was not impressed with. So I'm like, okay, I need to get the Life filter. And then I was like, you're getting rid of it. And so I messaged you. I'm like, are you getting rid of this forever? Like I was waiting my entire life to get this. So I'm excited to see that there's a new one coming out and it's even better. That's really exciting.
Yeah. It'll be, I mean, this one, yeah, the old one's going to be like half the price. So I'm going to have to raise it slightly because it's been
Yeah.
popular. But yeah, my friend Austin at Full Motion, he's still going to supply the replacement filter. So if
Hmm.
someone doesn't want to get the old one, we'll still be able to do it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's one of those important things. I mean, I think we don't think about like the cost issue. What the
Yeah.
or gelatinous soups, base bread,
Hmm.
cooking our pasta. Like we use water for a lot of stuff. Make a smoothie or
Yeah. Absolutely. And just cooking with it, or like, especially I like to eat white rice. Like I love white rice. And so you're obviously eating all of the water that you put into that. So it is important to have good quality water. Luckily up here, compared to Arizona, the water here is very clean. So I'm very blessed there. And I do, like I said, I have a tabletop right now. And I've been pretty impressed with that, but I definitely want something, just that peace of mind that it's doing exactly what it says it's doing and a lot more. I love drinking structured water. I do have the Analemma one. That was something that your show conned me into getting. So I do notice the benefits from that. I love to drink structured water, so that's definitely exciting.
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, reverse osmosis is huge. I distilled years, but if you can combine like reverse osmosis with sediment, with carbon, with deionization, really what those for. I think people tend to just focus on like just RO, just distilled. It's like
Yeah.
what a combination of which they all do different things.
Yeah. I appreciate that too because for a while I was really stuck on what water filter to get. And like there was a lot of Ray Peat people saying like distilled is the only way, but then you see like distilled doesn't get any of this stuff out. So it's like I don't even know what to do at this point. So to have a really well rounded one is really exciting.
Yeah, it's a pain to clean distilleries too. You better, I mean, if civilization collapsed, you better have pallets and pallets of white vinegar because
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh, so I saw you post about zeolite recently. Are you on the zeolite labs one? The
Yeah. Yeah. So it's Zeolite Labs, the ZeoCharge product. I am loving that. That was something I also found out about from your show. I think I'm actually going to be talking to Jeff next week. So that's exciting. Yeah. Like I said, I never have struggled with too many gut issues. And so I know that a big part of why that's working for a lot of people is the gut stuff and just kind of mopping up stuff there. I was more into it for like the detox. I want to start a family relatively soon. And so I want to get my body as like, I guess, pure as possible. And then just make sure that things aren't like coming out and like into the baby. I think that's really important. And so getting onto that for like detox purposes, but then also that kind of coincided with my journey with liver flushing. So I know that you had Elizabeth on your show, but yeah, for liver flushing, like I would get to a point where I felt so ill. And implementing ZeoCharge to bind up those toxins that were being released during the liver flush has been huge. On the same hand, I think Zeolite has created just a more resilient state in my body. I can go out to eat and I literally don't feel anything from like any stress on my body. We recently went out of the country to Dominican Republic, and it's like 9 out of 10 people say they get like food poisoning at these resorts and or some sort of poisoning in some way. And me and my husband felt completely 100% fine the entire time. And that was the first time I've ever been on vacation and not gotten like sick with some sort of like allergies, mold illness from the resort rooms, food poisoning, something like that. So I think it's definitely a really effective tool for mopping up a lot of stuff. I've never been exposed to like mold like that or just like the stress of travel and not had allergy issues.
that's great. Yeah, yeah. I think people tend to just think about the metals, mycotoxins, excesses.
Hmm.
Cool. I mean, it binds to a lot. Pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Um,
Yeah, it's been really effective for histamine for me. I think that's one of the number one things it's doing for me, and that's obviously I noticed like the detox stuff too. I do have a client on a pretty high dose of it, and she does some heavy metal panels, and we've seen hers go like crazy. It's like really cool to see the quantifiable data there. And I know you do like the Oligo scan too, and those are super cool to look at too. I was like trying to talk to that client. She's like, my aluminum shot up. Like I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, this is like why it's happening. It's pulling it out of your tissue. And yet now it's in circulation and your body's getting rid of it. We saw like your mercury and lead go down. So that's a good sign.
Yeah. Yeah. The Lego scan's interesting 'cause it's never going to like improve. Well, I guess it can improve, but it's like things are always shifting. Like one thing goes up, like you said, then another thing
Yeah. Yeah.
always in flux. You mentioned a few times that you're planning to start a family soon. And one of the,
Hmm.
I've had a bunch of shows on like, you know, uh, getting ready for pregnancy and what to prioritize. But it's just
Hmm.
always like a frequently asked question that I receive. So I was wondering
Hmm.
if you could share some of what you're doing to get ready. Like, do you prioritize like beef liver and oysters, like nutrient dense food?
Yeah. So right now, my focus is getting the remaining weight off. Fat is very estrogenic and it's stressful to lose weight. And so I just want to get it off and be done with it. I don't want to be dieting when I'm, having kids. It's just not, it doesn't sound good to me. When I do like calorie deficits and stuff, I just don't feel good. And I want to be there for my kids. I want to be energetic. I want to be lively. I want to be able to do all the things. And I definitely don't want to be dieting or doing any sort of restriction when I'm pregnant or breastfeeding. So I just don't see that fitting in anywhere. So right now, my main focus is to heal up the rest of my body. And so that's why I'm implementing the sugar diet. I just can't give more like 5 more years to dieting to try to get this fat off. The sugar diet is easy and it works and it's getting the fat off. So that's my tool right now. But once I get the fat off, I definitely want to go through like a 4 to 6 month period of like really building up my calories and all those, mineral reserves and all those things. I think obviously a super energetic and nutrient dense diet is really important there, getting lots of sunshine and light and having good stimulation in your life. Just are you enjoying the things that you're doing? Do you have good hormones floating around in your body at all times? But yeah, in terms of supplements, foundations are very important. But beyond that, yeah, getting like those micronutrients, you're going to lose a lot in pregnancy. So oysters, liver, organs of all sorts, those types of things are super good.
Yeah, it's funny. I have one sibling, older brother, and firstborn. I was the second born, and you always hear like the mom loses, minerals.
Hmm.
First baby, the second one, plus she would replenish. Second baby gets less of those minerals, and I'm taller than my older brother. I have more muscle mass and way more. I'm not talking down to him. I'm just saying but it's not always like
Hmm.
all these things we hear. Like my mom did replenish, for sure. So genetics played a role there, or what?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's really important. And there's a whole camp of people that, they're just like, just eat real food. But then you also have the camp of people that's like, nothing matters. It's just genetics. Like, you can eat McDonald's your entire pregnancy. You have cravings. You should just go for it. And I think that's just so disrespectful, honestly, to the life that you're growing. I can't imagine, just completely not caring about that. And I mean, maybe some people just don't know, how much environment has a role to play there. But once you can't do that. And so, yeah, just building up as many calories as I can bring in without gaining weight, honestly, is my goal. And that includes well balanced, macros. It's not going to be sugar diet while I'm trying to get pregnant. But yeah, foundational supplements are super important just because we're in such a state in this world where they're constantly being depleted. I know that you say that a lot too. And I appreciate that. It's not just because the soil's depleted, it's because our world is so fallen that we're just constantly having to fight back on that. And so, general supplementation, I love to always have B vitamins on board, like all of the vitamins, the trace or the minerals, the electrolytes and the trace minerals there. Fat soluble vitamins are extremely important. And then beyond that, I think, using tissue like liver, you can use thymus to build up a lot of things too as well. I like to use thymus and kidney. I think those are really good too.
Do you, are you not eating any cold water fish, like we'll stick freshwater?
I'm not. I do really like sushi. So when I go out to get sushi, I definitely get salmon. And I know that's probably the worst of the worst salmon that I could possibly get, but I enjoy it. Yeah, I'm not getting any. I don't buy salmon. If I'm eating fish, it's going to be shrimp or like cod or mahi mahi, something like that. Yeah, I'm not. I did the salmon thing. I did the polyunsaturated fat thing for a while, and I it makes my allergies noticeably worse when I'm having more polyunsaturated fats, and so I definitely, have learned to stay away from that, and just doing as much research as I can beyond the headlines that say, PUFA is going to lower inflammation, it's going to do all these things. You should, dose up on your omega 3s, omega 6. you get to a certain point where you have so much information at your hands that you just can't really go back there. So I'm definitely a PUFA, anti-PUFA person.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen I don't know if it's a theory. I mean, some animals do it. Like up here, I observe it
Hmm.
on a moss where they kind of load up on
Yeah.
hibernate, whatever. And then there's a connection between PUFA, daily antifreeze, some articles I call it.
Yeah.
But my personal strategy, like start, I don't necessarily make a dose, maybe like for really,
Hmm.
but like olive oil, of course, always with vitamin D, same day, and oysters, I hunt like fish. When it gets, I mean, it gets into the negative 30s. It's probably when
Hmm.
it's like super, super cold. To me, that just makes more sense. Like, I could use all the antifreeze I could get put on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something to be said there. I mean, that's definitely the method of why there is the more polyunsaturated fats in cold water fish. That's why that's happening, because otherwise they would be completely stiff. They would be unable to swim. And so that's why obviously that's happening there in those fish and then the different fruits that are in colder climates and those things. Yeah, I don't know. I've never noticed a thermogenic effect from polyunsaturated fats. I feel like a good dose of progesterone and thyroid and some sugar, maybe some coconut oil gets me very, very warm. So I guess I don't know the need there for me.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try Mexico.
Well, that's cold though. I don't know that you'd want to be drinking Coca-Cola before you go outside. Maybe some gelatin broth and some hot apple cider would be good.
I will say that homemade gummies with like good venison jerky, like Maui Dewey,
Hmm.
is like, while I'm snowmobiling all day is really nice.
Hmm.
Just that combo.
Yeah, yeah. Gelatin's very reliably warming as well. That's just paired with carbohydrates.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think we covered quite a bit. Was there any other things, anything we missed that you want to hit on? Or,
Oh, geez, I don't know. I feel like we talked about a good amount of stuff. Did you have anything else? I know we kind of talked about the protein and the sugar diet there. Was there anything else? I don't know. I know it's a big topic right now, so I kind of wanted to, add a little bit of clarity there. I feel like I understand the concept behind wanting to be balanced, but I think there's a real need for it. Do you feel like we did a pretty good job covering that, or?
so yeah, and I think it goes against the grain. Is that I think a message that I hear a lot is like slow and steady is always better. Like,
Hmm.
why not get results faster
Yeah,
if it works and it's safe? With, there's no reason not to do it. It's I don't know. That's my
yeah,
my mentality there. And yeah, if it's short term, you're not living on that level of sugar for even months, right? I mean, it's or how long do you usually as an individual? How long do you plan on doing it?
well, I don't plan to do it for too much longer. I've gotten a lot of the fat off at this point, and so I plan to do it probably for like another 2 to 3 months. I would say would be my goal, and then kind of have a good cutoff for the holiday season, and then just heading into next year, building up my metabolism again. Not that it's depressed or anything, but just really building up those nutritious foods and reserves there. I've been doing it. It's kind of like the thing is it's super flexible, and like I said, I'm not a slave to my diet. And so I'm going to fall off the hook a little bit. Sometimes I am going to go out to eat with my friends and family. I'm going to go on vacation, these things. And so I have had periods where I completely am off of it for a period of time and I'm able to just jump right back on it. So I've been doing it for quite some time now with breaks in between, but I've been successful at, getting 30 pounds of fat off. And it's been amazing. And I don't feel the negative metabolic effects of what it would look like if I did that with a calorie deficit. So that's been, just amazing. And so if I can get the rest of it off very swiftly and easily, then that's the plan.
Yeah, yeah, if it stays off. One counter that I often see in comments on sugar diet videos, posts, and stuff is what about the teeth? And I've heard
Mm.
that starch causes more, sticks to teeth for the sugar. Uh,
Yeah.
but for adding like excellent Coca-Cola, orange juice, red wine, or citrus general fruits.
Hmm.
I think they're definitely. I mean, I used to be vegetarian. I was really hardcore for a while, raw vegan, and you see like the long term vegetarians. It definitely affects the teeth. It's like how much
Yeah.
vitamin deficiency or A2 deficiency. Counts.
hmm
So there's a lot of stuff at play that people try to say.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something there. Obviously, it's going to be a matter of like how strong are your teeth in general. Like your genetics are going to play into that, as well as, like you said, the vitamins and minerals that you're bringing in. Everyone has a different predisposition to that. But what I would say is obviously good metabolic function is going to lead to good bone because you want to keep the parathyroid hormone down and keep the calcium from coming out of the cell or, yeah, out of the cell, out of the tissue. But yeah, I mean, if you're just eating sugar all day, it does get to a point. I mean, for some people, they're just eating like candy. I mean, that's going to stick on the teeth if you're just eating Sour Patch Kids all day. And I don't do that. I've tried it, and I just didn't enjoy it. My husband really likes Sour Patch Kids, so he always tries to go back on that. But yeah, I heard about Dr. Ellie's protocol when you had Scott on the show, and so I've been doing that, and it's been very effective. I use fluoride, and I also use the xylitol when I'm between feedings, and that's been very effective for me. What I try to do, the thing with the sugar diet is you kind of want to load your body with the fructose and kind of put that pressure on the system to metabolize it. And so I try to do like 3 or 4 separate feedings of like over 100 grams of carbs. And so I'll try to get it down within like 15 to 30 minutes and then have some Zellies or whatever it is, some xylitol, and take a break there. And then I go back to it. So I try to consciously have the breaks there where I'm giving my teeth a break. But I am also loading up the important nutrients there, vitamin K, vitamin E, vitamin A, minerals. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there's always more at play, but it's funny when I came out being pro fluoride, was that 2 years ago now or something? 2.5 years
mhm.
ago. I got super attacked by people that got so
Yeah.
triggered by it. It's like it's all in balance. Like brushing your teeth with fluoride twice a day is not going to calcify your pineal gland.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's the people who, and I'm not digging at anybody, but how can you hold this idea of like wanting to become resilient while also at the same time being scared of everything? I think that teeth are so valuable, and it's way worse to get a root canal. It's so much worse to lose your teeth. So if you need to, use fluoride for a period of time, maybe you don't. Maybe you have super strong teeth, but if you need to utilize it, like use it. It's way better than losing your teeth.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And obviously gut health plays a role, although I think that's overly emphasized. It's like it's an internal and an external. It's not
Yeah.
it's the one that I ideally have both.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the big things there could be, obviously if you have some sort of infection that's, pollinating your mouth, coming up from the digestive tract or kind of just moving throughout your system. I think that's something interesting about like candida is they always push like the no sugar, no carb diet, and then that just forces it to kind of go throughout the rest of your body looking for fuel, and that's how you end up with systemic infections. And so obviously the microbiome is important. I think endotoxin's another concept there where that could be just blunting the metabolic function all over your body and causing inflammation and stress, and all those resources get put to a place that's not healing and regenerating your teeth. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. Dr. Cass Ingram did a couple times before he passed away. It's my understanding, I don't hope it was ever publicly announced, but the people I talked to, it was a dental infection that he passed from. That he was super in a sugar and
mm,
very less than the price at a spot. Yeah. Emphasis on Nikita, died from dental infection. I'm not like, talk negatively about at all. Just kind of pointing out, I think these things are kind of important to look at, to learn from. So I think, okay, it's interesting.
yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think it's interesting. We're in kind of a culture where you're not allowed to discuss things. And I think that's the most valuable information that we have is experiments and anecdotes and just people's personal information. I mean, you talk to any person that's in kind of like the wellness sphere about, peat adjacent ideas or just the concept that maybe nicotine or something like that could be good for you. And it's always like, here's a study telling you why it's not. And it's like, well, I mean, it literally makes me feel good. Like it helps my histamine issues. It makes it's a very useful tool, and there's definitely a thing there where you can get addicted to nicotine. So it's not like I'm saying it's the end all be all greatest thing. But I think if your body is in a good state, then you don't become addicted to it because you don't need to become reliant on it, and then you can use it as a tool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that just goes to show like the science is there, but also personal. experience is very important as well, but just the symptoms that you're feeling. And obviously, we don't want to go 100% based on either or because cortisol makes you feel good. All these bad things can make you kind of feel good too. So, looking at the bigger picture, all the information that you have together.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if anyone's on Zyn, check out Knickknacks affiliate, but it's
Yeah.
affiliate.
Got them right here.
Cool. I think I saw you talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just do cigars, but if I ever did the supplemental form, it would probably be that
Yeah, I love the knickknacks. They're super clean. And they have xylitol in them, so there's some sort of at least like a buffering effect to what that could be doing in your mouth.
That's cool. Well, Gwyneth, this was a blast. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's growinggwenneth.com. Is that your website?
Yep, that's my website. And I'm also on Instagram, growing.gwenneth. That's where I'm mostly active, is pretty much just Instagram. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. And if people, they go to her blog, and I think it's her latest one, scroll down to this grocery list, which is pretty cool. So it's a good starter. I think a lot of people that don't know, they're just confused at information overload, like you talked about. It's all laid out there. So it's kind of an easy grocery list to print out and take with you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the simplest things people can know is like, if you don't have the energy to put into all these other crazy things, what are at least some good foods I could get started with for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was fun. It was my first podcast and I feel like it went pretty well. It was fun.
Yeah, you did awesome. There's a lot of useful information that you can apply. So thanks, and stick around as we close out the show.
I think the phrase sugar diet is really funny because both words trigger a lot of people for different reasons. I like that Gwyneth isn't a fan of candy for that protocol. Probably homemade, I'd imagine people could thrive on, but all of the store-bought healthy candies have tons of gums and weird ingredients that mess with your intestines. My favorite part about the sugar diet is that it's a quick fix because that triggers the people that tend to annoy me the most, which are the people that, like I mentioned during the show, say slow and steady, no need to rush. In fact, it's bad to rush because you will rebound. But a lot of people from the sugar diet apparently have kept their weight off, and it's a sustainable practice where they don't regain all of the weight that they've lost. I think somebody should create a protocol for gaining weight because that's my problem. I could probably eat 50 pounds of sugar a day and not gain 1 ounce of body fat. Maybe I have to go on a high PUFA diet. I'm kidding, but partly. I think that's why I'm drawn to kind of the cyclical PUFA consumption where I increase it in the winter and then go through kind of a PUFA clearance during the spring. When people often think about eating sugar, especially white sugar, they often think of weight gain. And I think the cool thing about people doing this is it's proving that that is not the case if it's combined with low fat intake because of the competition between glucose and fatty acids called the Randall cycle that is never talked about in mainstream nutrition. They just associate sugar with dental decay and weight gain, which is a really elementary, basic way of looking at it. I was actually just talking to a couple downstairs here at my cabin about health for a few hours, and the woman was telling me that she doesn't have much of an appetite. And I was recommending that she eat more frequently and really highlight the carbohydrate or the sugar piece, and also look at deficiencies, especially vitamin D3, vitamin E deficiency. I ended up sending them off with a couple bags of Life supplements and other supplements that I believe will help them specifically with mitochondrial dysfunction because they were saying that they were tired quite often. I was talking about the power of niacinamide, the power of vitamin E, zinc, copper, magnesium, all the things I talk about on the show quite a bit. Those nutrients definitely help with proper and efficient energy production. And of course, there's the heavy metal piece, there's EMFs, there's the circadian rhythm area. There's so many things that are happening that support energy production that it's best to just do a little bit year after year, like I've done for the last, going on 16 years now. And you just slowly build on each thing and get better and better while not getting lost in information overload. Experiment as much as you can, as much as you can afford, and learn through trial and error. And most importantly, stay humble, because people are very confident and they're often very confidently wrong. And I know because I've been there, especially with the whole iron topic, and everybody has iron dysregulation or everybody has iron overload. Both statements are completely and totally false. So I'm going to wrap up this rant because it's almost 10 p.m. here in North Idaho. You can find Gwenneth at growinggwenneth.com. As she mentioned, she's also on Instagram, growing.gwenneth. She works with clients. Highly recommend checking out her posts and the material that she's created, her shopping list. Like I mentioned, a lot of great information if you're confused on where to start with all of this. My website is matt-blackburn.com. You could see all of my recommended products, all the things I've found over the years, devices, supplements. My favorite bed is up there. And my CLF protocol, which stands for calcification, lipofuscin, and fibrosis. Those are three things that accumulate over a lifetime, and they contribute to basically the degeneration of every organ, tissue, and gland in the body. My brand is Mitolife. You can find that at mitolife.co. Big sale happening on the water filter as I'm closing that out to prepare for the structured water unit, which will be more expensive because some people reached out and said, I regret buying it. I didn't know you were coming out with another one. Well, the new one is going to be more expensive. So you can either keep the old one or you can upgrade, and we will be working with previous Mitolife filter owners on that if they're interested in upgrading. I'm not saying much about this filter just to keep it as secret as I can as I work on it, but I will say that it uses magnets, infrared light, the vortexing, and maybe what I'm most excited about of all, type 1 shungite, which will act as, you can say, a whole food remineralizer instead of the usual Cordyceps or calcite, the magnesium or calcium that you usually see systems inject back into the water at the end. This will be truly a next level remineralization of the water. We're not talking about levels that you would get from adding salt to the water, but to me, it is a huge step up from everything available out there right now. Just last teaser, there's absolutely no water filter on the market like the one that I'm about to release that actually generates structured water, which people talk a lot about in the context of spring water and using different devices to structure the water, which is all great. Do the best you can. But to use all of these influences at once without having to do anything on your own, it's all just there embedded in the filter, is really something else. And my friend John described the water as gelatinous. It's definitely thicker, and this actually can be measured with things like a tensiometer to quantify the surface tension. You could look at the density of the water, the viscosity, using various scientific methods, all of which show that this filter actually produces fourth phase structured water, which is just incredible. I am really excited to bring it to you guys, and I'm working as fast as I can to get that released. The Shilajit is back in stock. That's MitoLife Panacea if you've been waiting on that. I always tell people if there's just one supplement to take, it is that one. I take 5 tablets every morning after my morning coffee, and that's 1 gram of pure lab-tested Shilajit imported from Russia. And it's really easy to take compared to all of the other Shilajit that you find in jars where you have to spoon it out and it tastes really bad. These you could just swallow whole if you don't want that bitter flavor and get all of the benefits. So that is all for today. Follow me on Instagram. It's Matt Blackburn, MitoLife on Instagram as well for updates. If you want to listen to previous shows, you can go to YouTube and just search MitoLife Radio, and you'll see all of the previous 300 plus shows that I've done over the years and access the archive there. That is all for today. I'll see you guys next Friday. Stay supercharged.